Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Southern News Podcast, the show where I talk about books and only books and everything book related. And today I am joined by Theresa Evans. She is an author and recently published her first book, Choosing to Die, a daughter's story of supporting her mother's end of life through assisted death. She looks forward to talking with guests about how she showed up for someone at the end of their lives, regardless of how they choose to die. So she's here. She's going to share a little bit more about her book, her backstory, and what kind of inspired her to write her book, and just have a really good conversation. So, Theresa, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come on the podcast today. I'm really excited for you to be on here, and welcome to Southern Reads.
Thank you, Noah. I'm happy to be here.
So, share with me a little bit about what kind of inspired this book and what kind of made you want to become an author.
Um, my when my mother died in Canada, where I'm from and where she lives, I've lived in the United States for years now, but it was during COVID, and so my daughter wasn't able to be with us, and I decided to keep a journal. I've always been a journaler, and because I wanted Stephanie, who was very close with my mom, to know firsthand as well as she could this experience. And so I kept a pretty good journal while I was there for those last 3 months. And then the following year, I took a writing course. It was just, I had never taken one before. It was something being offered by a local writing program. And I we had to draw a word out of a hat. And then we had to free write for 15 minutes about that word. And I drew the word water. When I closed my eyes and I thought about the word water, the thing that came to my mind was the sound of my mother's breathing at the end of her life when she had congestive heart failure and her lungs were rattling with that water in her lungs and her watery eyes, like we see that elderly people can get. And I started writing about my experience, and it just grew from there. Before I knew it, I had written 30 pages, and I thought, I think I have a story to share here. And that was the beginning of the process of writing the book.
So, when you started writing the book and kind of writing it on her life and kind of her experience, were there any parts or times where it got a little bit difficult to write just because of the emotional impact and emotional attachment to it?
Um, I mean, there was definitely some tears that were shed during the writing process, but it was such a positive experience, even though it was one of the most, I would say, hard in the sense of holding so much sensation and anticipatory grief. Um, but that was that was one half of it. The other half was this beautiful experience of being able to be present with my sisters and my mom and to consciously um, basically love her right out of her body. So there were moments, and of course, we know that our memories are faulty at best. But I was lucky because I had both of my sisters, and so I used the journal to prompt my writing. There's 3 sections and 14 chapters in the book, and if I wasn't sure about something, I pretty much the entire book I would write and then I would have a meeting with my sisters. I didn't write about I mean, my sisters were very much a part of it, but I didn't want to take the liberty of writing their story. I wrote it from my perspective, but they were there. And so I relied on their memories to help me clarify as well. And I mean, even now, sometimes when I'm talking about it, tears will come up, a sensation will come up, but it's all good. Those just remind me of how much I loved my mom.
During the writing process of the book, how did you want to go about telling it? Did you want to share kind of your personal experience with it or kind of have like an overall thing to where people could really relate to it?
Well, my mother was a master gardener, and one of the things she asked me to do while I was there for those last 86 days was to put her garden to rest for the season. Well, she died on November 15th. I was there for September. I was there for August, September, October, a little bit of July, and then into November. So I was really saw the garden transitioning. And as I worked in the garden, I began to realize how everything in nature was a giant metaphor. Everything that was happening in the garden is what was happening with mom in the house. And so I decided to organize the book and write it through the lens of botany. And each chapter in the book focuses on a different perennial. And I tell the story of what's happening with that plant. And I tie that into what's happening with my mom. And so that was how I organized the book. It's a memoir. I was a critical care nurse for years. So of course I've put some of my nursing perspective in there, um, some of my spiritual perspective. It's a little bit of it. It weaves together a lot of different stories.
So, after you had finished the book and had kind of crafted the whole thing, did you want to go through like a traditional publisher or do self-publishing? How did you go about publishing the book?
Well, um had somebody I had met years ago who I knew helped people self-publish. And so I had hired her just as a consultant during the writing process. And when I got finished, she said, okay, now you need to write a query letter and find yourself an agent. Because she said, I really feel strongly this book will get picked up. It's well well written. It's a timely topic. And I just had this, I thought I'll just do some investigating. And I did some investigating on traditional publishing versus self-publishing. And I wasn't sure. I sent out a few half-hearted query letters, but I was never sure I really wanted a traditional publisher. And then there was an article that came out in Writer's Digest written by someone who had both traditional and self-publishing. And there's pros and cons to both, right? I mean, I was at a writing workshop a few weeks ago, and a traditional publisher was saying the thing about it is with a traditional publisher, you have up to 30 or 40 people working on your book. And when you're self publishing, you are those 30 or 40 people. You are doing it all. But the deciding point for me was really wanting to maintain ownership of my writing and the content and how it was used. And for that reason, I decided to independently publish the book with the help of a business called Publishing Partner. So I felt the book warranted a good professionals working on the book. I hired a professional illustrator. I hired a an excellent professional copy editor and global editor, and I spent about, I don't know, eight to $10,000 publishing the book. And then there's the whole after that, right? Which is okay, now that I've got this amazing finished product, how do I get it out there? Which had no clue what I was getting myself into. And I think that is the biggest thing when you're independently publishing is you don't have the backing of a big house behind you promoting the book. You have to do all of that yourself.
One of the quotes that you have in the book is a very impactful. You say, "We are quick to talk about the miracle of life when an infant enters this world, and I believe the miracle of death carries the same weight and mystery." Can you expand a little bit more on that?
Well, I just think that we've created a story in our culture that death is something bad. And in fact, death is just a natural part of living. You can't have one without the other. And we've created a story that life is something wonderful. And, when I guess living so consciously through the experience with my mother opened my eyes to the mystery and the beauty that dying can be when we are really present for it. And when of course, you're going to feel sadness and you're going to feel grief. All of that is part of it. But that's its own amazing journey that you can actually have that much sensation about something, that you can feel that strongly. I mean, grief is like getting hit by a tsunami. And how many times in our life do we get to feel that? And I decided I want to be present for this experience. I don't want to try to get over it. I don't want to try to push it away. I want to feel it. I want to feel what it is. And I think, I mean, my, I'm really, my mission has become more about changing the narrative about how we view death so that we can show up for it. We can have conversations around it. We can be more prepared for it. And rather than getting emotionally swept away with our own feelings, we can be completely present for the person who is dying. So, in other words, we can take care of them instead of having them take care of us because of our feelings.
So far, what's been the overall reception that you've received about from the book itself so far?
The reviews have been great. I mean, again, it's very hard to get people to write a review. I've sold, I think, a little over 500 books, which the book just launched in March. And for an independently published book, I guess that's quite good. Um, but I only have 27 reviews on Amazon, right? It's just, and I'm not sure what the struggle is for people to leave a review, but I will say, if you're listening out there as a reader, one of the greatest ways that you can help an author, especially an indie author, is to go to Goodreads and go to Amazon and leave a review. And it doesn't have to be long and it doesn't have to be complicated. But I, the reviews have been, people have loved the book. They come to me saying, I wish I'd read this book before my mother died, or I wish I'd had this book before my father died. And I learned so much. And I never really thought about, I didn't know what I thought in particular about assisted death or about death in general. And I mean, really, I suppose maybe only people that like it are going to say that talk to you. I'm not sure, it can be a controversial topic, but again, even though my mother chose to die with medical assistance in dying, that's not the main, that's part of the book, but that's not all of the book. I have people that have bought the book and then bought copies for their children. I want my children to read this book. I want my children to know this experience.
Did you find find kind of healing and kind of self-acceptance about what's happened so far when writing the book?
Oh, absolutely. It was pretty cathartic writing the book. Um, yeah, I mean, I suppose it was part of, I did it as I was going through my grieving process, and which continues, and even having these conversations, being on podcasts, doing talk. Yes, it's been very healing, and it's really helped me clarify my own feelings around death and dying, and what I want that to look like for me and for the people that I love.
Has anyone shared with you any personal stories of maybe something similar that they've been through to you that have helped kind of made you see that this book has made such a huge impact on so many people?
Oh, absolutely. That's the first thing people do, is that I loved your book. And yeah, they'll talk about their own mother's death, one that was significant in their life, and share a story with me about that. I love that. I mean, I love hearing those stories. That's the greatest compliment, I think. And for me as an author, that I could get is somebody resonating with my writing and with the story and the way I tell it.
Has this kind of inspired you to write more books about this topic, or just kind of write more about your life going forward? Or was this kind of a one and done just to kind of see what the process would be like and maybe move on to something else?
No, I'm itching to write. I mean, I love writing, and I've always loved writing, and I've had a couple of businesses where I sent out newsletters, and I loved writing my newsletters. And I would say, in the process of writing the book, maybe the first 30 or 40 pages just seemed to pour out of me. And then the book is, I think it's 290 pages. The next part of it is where I learned to be a writer. I learned what it means to show up, sit down at the desk and write, and sometimes not always have an idea of what that's going to be. But because I was writing the book through the lens of botany and I was using my journal for the experience we lived through, I let both of those points act as a springboard for my writing. So if I sat down and there was nothing in my journal that was like literally coming out for me to write, I'd pick up a book on botany and I'd start reading something about botany, and within I barely get through a page and I go, oh yeah, that reminds me of what mom was going through when this happened. And so I definitely want to um, I have an idea for a follow-up book, which is about the 1 or 2 years of specific grieving process that I went through. And I'd like to carry on with the theme of the garden, because during that time of grieving, we moved to a house that didn't have any garden. And so I spent my grief in the garden, planting a new garden.
So far, how has this book helped you personally?
Well, as I said, it's helped me clarify my own thoughts on death and dying. It's helped me reframe what that experience is. I've never been afraid of death. I It definitely helped me with go through my grieving process. It's been a great way of meeting people and starting conversations with people. Um, I'm, for instance, giving the service at our Unitarian Church on Sunday. So that's going to be a wonderful networking and conversation. And that's what I almost feel like the book is my business card now, that allows me to start these important conversations about this topic. I don't think as a culture we give enough time to. We wait until it's too late when emotions are high. And um, we should be having these conversations much sooner than we are.
What is the overall message that you are hoping readers will take away from after reading Choosing to Die?
That death is a normal part of living, just like we see in a garden. You have to have integration and disintegration. Plants grow, they drop their petals, they lose their stems, they go to sleep for the winter, there's a rebirth, and it's the same for people. So I think just an awareness, also the experience can be magical, it's mysterious. It's how often do we get to feel this much sensation? How often do we, so that we can do these hard things. We can show up for people for our loved ones who are dying, and we can actively participate in loving them right out of their bodies.
During this whole journey, what are you most proud of and the biggest accomplishment that you are the most proud of?
You mean during the journey of writing the book?
Yes.
I think getting it out there. I mean, it is truly like giving birth, writing a book. I mean, there are moments where I thought, why am I doing this? I mean, this isn't good. There is, and I mean, going through the whole editing process, which, um, I mean, I had no idea. I had never, I had never written a book before, but I think, honestly, I said to my husband, once we had it, once I knew that all the editing was done, the artwork was done, the layout was done, it was put together, it was ready to go. And I thought, I am not going to worry about whether this book sells and how it gets out into the world. I'm just gonna, I I'm not, I've done what I needed to do, which was to put this experience in writing and get it in a format we call a book. And I think, on when I received that very first copy in the mail of the advanced reader copy, I'm like, oh my God, here it is in book form. I've done it.
Well, I think it's just a huge achievement for you too of be able to come out with this book and share your story with so many people that are maybe going through something similar, and you've helped so many people heal from. Well, I thought I had sneeze. From such a really dark time in people's lives. So I think it's
Mhm.
really important for you to be able to share this story and have them really be able to heal from it. It's really inspiring to see how far you've come and the impact you've made. Um, well, Theresa, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today to share your story and to share this is wonderful a book with my audience today. For anyone interested in learning more, if they would like to check the book out for themselves, where can they go to learn more information and where is your book available to purchase?
The book is available at all of the usual Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Tertulia, bookshop.org. If you go to my website, which is Teresa with an H, teresaevans.com, you can purchase the ebook directly on my website, and there's links to all of the other possibilities for buying the book. Also, write a blog. You can sign up for the blog where I talk about death and dying and what's happening. So you can sign up for that blog.
And I will put all of this information in the description box in the show notes. So just look for those in the description box below. I appreciate Theresa again for coming on the podcast today. You're more than welcome to follow me on the socials as well. You can reach out to me on Instagram and TikTok at southern.reads. Feel free to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Noah's Podcasts. And to learn more about the show as well as to find more links to my podcast and where it's all available, just go to my website, noahspodcasts.com, to learn more about this show as well as the other podcasts that I do. Feel free to just subscribe or follow the podcast so you get notified of when new episodes like this come out in the future. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in today's episode. Hope you really enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your day. Be safe, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of Southern Reads.